Hello and welcome to Alexa Live. My name is Dave, the Dave Dev on the internet, and it is my pleasure to be coming to you here from Seattle. I know a lot of you are used to seeing me either on stage or in my studio at home, so it is super exciting to be here with the Alexa team. We've got a bunch of content lined up for you today. I know we have, based on registrations, we have people who have never created a skill. We have people who have created many skills. We have people who are looking into the design. We have people looking into monetization. There are a lot of people here today, way smarter than me, that are going to be answering a ton of your questions, that are going to be diving deep into all the latest from Alexa. And I'm going to kick it off with an overview. I want to give you my thoughts on what are the last now we're going 5 years, right? And this, 5 years of this, some of you may remember 2014, 2015, me turning on my webcam and just talking to all of you. And the energy and the excitement and the ideas back then, that's never changed. And it's what keeps me going. So I want to paint a picture. And some of you, if you have kids, whether you have kids or not, maybe you've seen this in your own life, right? And the theme I want you to remember today, as you create these things, is meeting customers, meeting human beings in the moment. All right? And so, we bought a telescope at home. My youngest, she's into astronomy now, just like Dad was growing up. And I see stuff like this in my house. It's this question. You're at play and suddenly you have a question.
5, 6. Alexa, how many stars are in the galaxy?
Many astronomers believe it contains at least 100 billion stars.
So if you think about that, some of you may be traveling with your kids in the car and they're trying to talk to the radio saying Alexa, or maybe you're in a hotel room and you're like Alexa and she's not there. It is that immediate conversational type of experience that has truly changed all of our lives in the past 4 years and how we get to the information. I like to think of it as voice is the HTML for all the tech in our lives, right? HTML was never about the tech itself. It was about giving you access to information and content wherever you are. And I want you to think about voice, and as you create these things, as giving human beings access to information in the moment, anywhere they are, on their own terms. And so there's been a ton of new releases over the years. Some of my favorites right now, Alexa Hospitality. So some of you may have seen this at hotel chains where you have the ability to go ahead and get your bill or room service. Or how about Alexa at work? This actually started here in Seattle when we were trying to create a meeting. How much time gets wasted on meetings of trying to add someone, right? Or trying to get an AV working, or trying to get a Wi-Fi password. And the question was, why can't Alexa start the meeting? And suddenly now you can. You can go ahead and integrate with your existing tech, and there are tons of devices out there, devices from Polycom, that have Alexa integrated. And what about in the car? I've been thinking a lot about this, and part of my job nowadays is talking to brands and meeting with people that are really thinking about how are their customers using their services today. And you're going to hear a lot of talk today about multiple modalities from a design sense, right? So is it voice? Is it a screen? But as human beings, we switch through modalities all the time. And the car, to me, has become such an exciting area. When I am traveling, I listen to long-form audio, and many of you probably do, right? You have an audio book or you have a podcast. But games have suddenly become the it thing, both for me and my family, in the car. Now, those of you who know me, I'm a big gamer. I have my gaming laptop here. If I'm sitting in front of my big screen TV, I'm probably on my Xbox or my PlayStation. But if I'm in my car and I'm driving, I can play Skyrim, right? I can play Westworld. I can play Song Quiz and all these super interesting, engaging games that have different modalities too. And I want you to start to think about that, is that you're meeting that customer in the moment where they are on their own terms, And that modality becomes something that reaches beyond an Alexa scale. You know, and when we launched this in 2014, you had the one device, you had the one Echo device, but suddenly you can be interacting and gaming anywhere. So whether it's, you know, built in the car, or you're using one of those new Echo Auto devices, you have the ability to do that and engage with people. And this is something I do. This is actually not my house. But when I am coming back from the airport or something like that, a lot of times nobody's home, so I'm going to go ahead and I actually call it upstairs. So I'll say, Alexa, set upstairs to 68 degrees. So again, it's this interface for technology. I'm in my car, but it's still Alexa. And it's going ahead and it's interacting with the home. And then you saw things this past year like a microwave. I mean, look at the mom in this picture. She has her hands full. I've been here. I've got 2 girls at home, and I have a microwave. And that thing is like Star Trek. When you put your coffee in there and you say, Alexa, heat this for 30 seconds, this is very visceral. It's physical. And you're talking and you're having a conversation, and suddenly the microwave starts to heat up. Right? And that's what this is about. So I want you to think, as you go through this, maybe you're writing a skill today, but what does it mean to have a conversation with your customer 5 years from now? You know, if you have a business that was created on the internet, some of you may not even have a help desk line. You may never have a conversation with a human being face to face. You know, I was, growing up, I was a bank teller, and there were people who would come into the bank twice a week and talk to me for 30 minutes. There was this relationship there, right? And that could be part of your brand in this voice-first world. So all of these interconnections with human beings, whether you're playing games with family and friends, or you're interacting with the devices in your lives, that is what voice is all about. So one of my favorite things we launched, we heard from all of you of, hey, I want to teach Alexa things. It's great that I can create these skills, and we're going to jump into some of those new tools in a little bit. But it would be really cool if I could just create jokes or have Alexa remember things. And so we launched this stuff called Blueprints, and you can go ahead and check that out right now at blueprints.amazon.com. And there's everything in there from information, you know, jokes, burns. You know, that's pretty popular in my house. Making fun of Dad is is an art form in my house, but there's other things that you can do, and this has moved across content creation. So for example, maybe you have a WordPress blog out there. Through an AWS service called Poly that can actually generate voice on the fly, you can now have Alexa read your blog entries. So imagine your readers, you know, maybe you have a blog and you have a podcast, and every morning you just want to spend 2 minutes with them as part of their flash briefing. But you want that voice not in Alexa. You want that voice in your own narrator. You can go ahead and you can do that today. And in fact, you can go ahead and you can integrate. We just launched Blueprints in the workplace. So you have the ability to go ahead and create blogs, and you have the ability to go ahead and answer questions, onboarding, and things like that. And there's been incredible momentum. I mean, gosh, sitting here in Seattle reminds me when we launched this. And I remember sitting around a table, and there was 10 skills, and you know, one of the top skills on there was cat facts, and we were like, when is there going to be dog facts, right? We need to be able to catch up, and the dogs need some props, and it's just to watch that grow and to see incredible skills, both from brands that we all know to niche areas. You know, I even have a Dungeons and Dragons dice roller. Right? I mean, can't get much nicher than that than rolling a D20. But you'll see all of that across the catalog. And we announced there's over 100 million Alexa-enabled devices now. So this stuff is real. It's here. There's 80,000 plus skills. Obviously, if you're listening to this, you know this. And I just want to share this with you so that you can see that momentum. In fact, I love hearing from all of you on Twitter. Every time we launch a new device, a lot of you will share it and be like, Dave, look at this. And you just see the trajectory as more and more devices, people are going ahead and they're having conversations with everything that you're creating. So in 2019, that's what I want you to think about. I want you to think about meeting the customer in the moment and Alexa anywhere. And so what does it mean to be anywhere? What is my experience like in an automobile? What do I sound like, right? Do I want Alexa to be my voice? Do I want professional narration? Do I want an actor like in Jeopardy, right? It's Alex Trebek that you'll actually hear while you play the game. And so we've seen that growth from one device into devices everywhere that customers want to engage. And so based on feedback from customers, we've created developer APIs to make things easier and you to meet them in the moment. So if I say something like, Alexa, how do I remove a grass stain? In 2019, that can actually go ahead and hand off to a skill that you create. So it could be something like Tide, how to remove stains. It could be your own skill on how to do stuff. I know grass stains are big in my house. If I said, Alexa, how am I doing as a response? So when I'm having a conversation, what does that even mean? Maybe I haven't captured that inside of my skill. And so we have things like fallback intents that allow you to go ahead and capture what's actually going on. So if you've never created an experience for your customer outside of mobile or web, mobile and web is Rails. You have to interface in the way that I've created. You get to use these drop-downs. You have to click these buttons. I don't know what's on your mind until you call my help desk and you're angry with me. This is a real opportunity. If your customer, think about this today, wanted to ask you a question about anything, what would they ask? And so if I say, how am I doing? That's actually from a Capital One skill where they were finding people were asking, how am I doing? And maybe they wanted a bank balance or their mortgage or something like that. And then we have the ability, you think of anthropomorphism where we have a connection with inanimate objects, right? And AIs like Alexa are no different than that. And to sound more human, to change the tone of your voice, if I say, Alexa, play a lullaby, and she whispers back, okay, and doesn't wake the baby, that's delightful. And you can do things like that. In fact, I'm going to show you how to do some of that in SSML a little bit in a dashboard. And you'll see much more of that today. So it's not mobile and web where it's just always the same display. It can be dynamic. It can change tone. It can change voice. We have a whole sound library for you to add effects and more and more and more. If you have a little one at home, we actually have an Alexa Health API. So I can log things like bottle feedings and weights and stuff like that. Or if I say, Alexa, thank you. We heard from customers of, it's weird when I say good night and there's nothing back. Or I say thank you and there's no you're welcome. So follow-up mode is something that customers can enable, and it allows that conversation to feel more human. And so should your skills. This is a new one. I'm excited about this. So if I said, and this is just a made-up skill, but let's say shop me, and Dominic's happens to be a local pizza joint where I am. But if I said something like, Alexa, ask shop me for lunch from Dominic's, we do have the ability to use dynamic entities. And we heard this from all of you as developers is, I don't want to recompile my model and then submit this whole thing to certification. If somebody asks for a lunch menu, I want to dynamically load what's available for lunch that day. And so now you can use dynamic entities within your skill. And then other things like just remembering Wi-Fi password. That's not my Wi-Fi password. But, it could be my parents' Wi-Fi password though. But just to remember different types of things. Birthdays, facts, Wi-Fi passwords, all of that now is part of the conversation in 2019. Some of the excitement I've seen all online with you. I've seen with doctors. I've met with surgeons. And I have a background in health, in pharma, and just to see all of this now with HIPAA, the ability to ask Express Scripts, where's my order? Or as somebody who's lived with juvenile diabetes since I was 10, I've always looked at technology as a way to manage that condition. And I can ask, blood sugar readings and things like this with Alexa. I think this is going to be a huge area, and it's an area you can start to think about today. And then we've updated the mobile app. Some of you may remember what that mobile app looked like in 2014 with our first release. And you can see this across Android, iOS, the Alexa Windows Store app. So I actually have this on my laptop, and I'm going to try and use it as we go throughout. Wherever you're working with technology, again, think of it like voice is that HTML. Voice is that interface for everything, wherever you want. And then in-app, you're gonna hear about monetization today. And just like meeting your customer in the moment, what's important about monetization is, it's funny. When I was growing up, I had all sorts of part-time jobs. I think I started working when I was 10 with a paper route, and then I worked McDonald's and Rickle Lumber and Lowe's Theaters and all of these kind of retail jobs. And what I learned back then was it's actually, you're having a conversation one-on-one with a person and it's looking at their need. So I remember upselling large popcorn and a large soda for $1 more, right? And that's, I don't know how much more that would be nowadays, right? But where we're seeing success in this is in the moment. With things like Amazon Pay, I've already have my credentials. I'm already logged in with Amazon, and I'll get an information about whatever I bought will be in my Amazon purchase history. So if I'm listening to your content, and it's a long form audio, and you've got a really interesting guest on your podcast, and maybe that guest has running shoes or something like that, and I say, hey, would you like to buy these running shoes for 50% off on Amazon right now? All I have to say is yes. So don't think about just the way it is in mobile where you're upselling like game things and levels and content. This can be a real bridge between the digital and the physical. And you're going to find out more about that today. And then developer tools. Whether you're a developer or not, don't worry. I just play one on TV nowadays. There are super rock star developers here on the team. But I want to give you an overview about what this looks like today, both the blueprints and our developer console. I mean, we have had so many releases, and those that follow me on Twitter, you'll see I do a Hey Alexa Devs, and I get excited. I get the roadmap of what's coming, and obviously I can't share that with all of you. But when it's finally there, I am truly excited to be able to get that news out. And this is just, the last time I did an overview of this was November 2018. The stuff in the blue is since November. This is actually what the team has been launching out there. And the ability to create Alexa blueprints for your business, for your company, but also to publish them. So that's something we released recently, is that if I create a blueprint, I can go ahead and I can show that to my friends. I can share that. Maybe I want to create a schedule for medications for my parents who are getting older and share that out so that they can have those conversations. We can do things like that. The ability to go ahead and flag and say, I'm building this skill now for the car. You have that. The ability to do, like I talked about, dynamic entities. And also the ability when you're having dialogues to go ahead and automatically fill that out. So there's just been some incredible momentum across this. Make sure you check the blog. Make sure you check out our Twitch show. I post this stuff on Twitter if you want to keep up with it. And also please keep complaints coming in. If you don't like something, if we haven't done something yet, we do have a user voice site, right? So alexa.uservoice.com. We do read those. The team tries and responds on those. We want to build the most tools that we can so that you can meet your customers in the moment. And one of the things we also have done recently is we've created a new language. We call this Alexa Presentation Language, or APL. And for me, as somebody who's spent a career, I used to build websites. I used to build websites that competed with Amazon back in the early 96, 97. And I got to watch. I was fortunate enough to watch HTML evolve. To watch, this is VB script, and this was JScript, and this is JavaScript, and LiveScript, and kind of see all of those languages. But what we were doing right back then was we were creating content that was rendered within this tool that happened to be called the browser. And even as mobile came across, we had device screens of set pixel sizes. I was fortunate enough to launch Fire TV, to be part of that amazing team here at Amazon. And you can still see the content if you go and search for it. But one of the things that I talked about back then was the 10-foot experience. What does it mean when I'm leaning back and the interface is over there and it's not like this? But even then, that was a predefined size. So what does it mean in a multimodal world when I can talk to Alexa on a device that's a watch, on a mobile device, on a huge, gigantic TV, or on a device with no screen at all? That's what APL is about. So again, it's meeting your customer in the moment, but not worrying about what that device is. You don't know what kind of devices, and I don't mean from Amazon, it could be from anybody. What are the devices going to look like in 10 years? But you want to think about creating that experience now without having to get into the weeds with that. And that's really what APL is about. So you're going to see things referenced like color, size, weight. Is it touch? Do I need a wrapper around that? Is it round? So I have a tendency to think about these future devices in shapes of roundness or rectangular or square. What does that mean, right? I have this, and this is not a thing from Amazon. This is a Dave thing, although I keep saying it, so maybe somebody will build it. But I want like a device that is a cufflink or lapel pin. It's like that, right? And maybe it can show colors because Alexa has reminders, or I can talk to it. So it just kind of fades into what I'm wearing. But all of that I could do with APL. So the ability even to, if you've seen the blueprints with photos and slideshows, it's all using APL. And then doing things like ordinals. As human beings, we don't say the thing. I go, give me the second thing, give me the first thing, give me the last thing. And so all of that is wrapped up into APL for you. So let's go ahead, let's jump in. Let's see what we can do here. It does look like I have Wi-Fi. I love jumping in and trying to do things live because this is a tool that you're all using today. So hopefully everything will work and be cool. Let's start out, let's go to Alexa Blueprints. So it is alexablueprints.com. Come in here. So if everybody sees this URL up here, so blueprints.amazon.com. If you come up here, you can come in and you can check this out. Let's do Alexa for Business that I mentioned before. So if you have AWS, you can come in here and you can check out Alexa for Business. Don't worry about it. If you don't, think of this as a way to manage devices. And you're going to see tie-ins over here to your Alexa skill blueprints. So I'm going to go ahead and try one. I'm going to do a business Q&A. And you'll get a little bit of information. So how many times have you been at work and maybe your computer, you need your password reset, or you need the number for the IT help desk, or you want to know what your actual vacation days are this year, or things like that, right? Just common questions that cost a company time and money to go ahead and do that. What if we could just ask a device like Alexa right next to ours? So if I come in here and I say, make your own, you have variations, right? So you're going to see sample utterances of questions, and I can go ahead in here and I can say stuff like, so, who's in charge of social media? And I could say something like, the Dave Dev tries poorly to do that stuff. And you get the idea, right? Hours for IT, all of that. I hit next experience. You get a welcome message. I can pick backgrounds because maybe it's a visual device. And I'll say something like office helper. Actually, I'll do my office helper. But what I want you to see here is I'm actually creating a skill visually. And what did that take? 30 seconds? And so it's easy for you to jump in here today. It's a very simplified process to go ahead and start doing this stuff. And in fact, I do have an office helper here. If I come over and I say something like, let me make sure I can hear. Ask office helper who does social media.
The Dave Dev does all of that, I think.
She thinks.
Do you have another question?
No, I don't. Thank you. And so this is the Windows Store app that you're seeing here. I can do a Control-Shift-A. So it's just built into Windows, but I wanted to show you that that works instantly across all of my account. Now, what about the experience of actually going ahead and creating a skill? So you can come here to developer.amazon.com. Ask. You can go ahead and register for a free account. Maybe you haven't touched this in years. Maybe you remember when we didn't even have Lambda integration. This was just a bunch of forms. So I want to show you in just a little bit what's got me excited in here. So if I come in and we'll go ahead and we'll say something like holiday trivia. Or actually, you know what? We'll do Alexa Live trivia. So the first thing you will all notice is we have pre-built models that you can see here. So I mentioned before the health API. So if I want to do something for information about my baby, if I want to go ahead and book meetings, we still have the smart home skills. You see all of that. So I'm going to just say custom. And we're going to go ahead and say create skill. And what we're going to do, I always find if you've never done anything before, the quiz game skill is pretty cool because it's kind of middle road, shows you both answers and questions and that back and forth. So we're going to go ahead and take that template. And we'll go ahead and turn this, and let's do invocation name. So I'll say my quiz game. I'm going to go ahead and save that model. And let's go ahead and look at our intents. So I have an answer intent. Let's show everything here. And you'll see, now, you can put whatever you want in here. This is just set up as an example to go ahead and ask about different states and capitals and things like that. And don't worry if you haven't even coded a skill yet. Just think of this as a contract for conversation. What would a human being ask? And what are the things that they're trying to get meaning on? So capital, what's the intention of that actual request, right? So this is something new. Everybody see this up here? I hope you don't miss it in there. As you're building your sample utterances, a lot of times you may have a question of, I wonder if this would work. Would it actually match it? What would the accuracy levels be? And so you can see some of these questions are like, tell me about, what do you know about? But I haven't even done, let me go ahead and build this actually first. I haven't added any of these sample utterances, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just create one on the fly that doesn't actually exist. And if you've created a skill before, this will kind of blow your mind because you know that you need to compile these models and you need to do all of that. I can go ahead in here into utterance profile and I can go ahead and just throw things that don't exist in the model yet. So we'll wait for that to get built. And while it's building, another cool feature that's been requested, if you look over here, bulk edit. I hear rejoicing on the internets. If I click this, I have the ability to upload. So I can upload a CSV file. I can do all of those things. I can also export this. So if I come in here, you'll see it's all of the sample utterances I already had. So if you've got some type of process you're doing outside this tool, you see that. The model's built, so we can come in here. And I could say something like, please show me about Seattle. And you can see, even though this doesn't exist as a sample utterance up here, you can see it actually matched to an answer intent. So something new to go ahead and use while you're creating this. Another interesting point is if I come in here, does everybody see this? I have a default region. It's built in. I don't have to jump into AWS. I can go ahead and I can come over here and I can test. And I haven't actually created a Lambda function, but I have the ability to come in here and say, what did we call it? Open my quiz, I think.
Launch request.
So it's showing me a launch request. And if I said something like this, tell me about Seattle.
Intent. Answer intent.
So everything's
Locale,
working automatically with the idea of
slots,
letting you get in,
abbreviation,
jump in,
undefined,
and go
state
ahead and
year,
start working with
undefined,
all of the
state
information
order,
that you want to
undefined,
work with.
capital, Seattle, state name, undefined.
So you're going to read it all out. OK. Now, I talked before about whispering. So here you can see.
You believe it?
All right, she can whisper, but we can also use other voices. And so there's a library of tons of voices. I want a man's voice. So this is Matthew. And I have a sound effect right here for a cough. So if I do something like this.
I want to tell you a secret.
I am a very cool person.
Right, so there you go. There's some self-deprecation there, coughing when he's saying, I'm a very cool person. But all this, you're going to see a ton of this today. You're going to have people that are going to dive into different areas. We've got icon builders. We have the ability to go through the actual tool in certification that would happen and see those same kind of things before you submit. All of that is based off of your feedback as the team continues to iterate both what our customers are asking and what you're asking. And so as this day goes through, you're going to see all of the new stuff, but I want you to remember one thing. I want you to think about meeting that customer in the moment, and that customer may not always be the person that you see up here on the right. A customer may be the person on the left. In the past, you may have created new mobile and web experiences and said, you know what, that audience, those customers are never going to be able to update the app, have a smartphone. Voice is accessible, it's inclusive, whenever, however, and for everyone. It allows you to meet your customer in the moment, and the conversation never ends. Thanks, everyone. Have a really great Alexa Live.